I pressed the
Are
button. I
we
pressed the
okay?
button.
Oh no.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome
Oh.
everybody to the stream. We are live. Maybe. Who knows? Technology is not our friend, except
Yeah.
when it is. Kristen, did you edit anything today? Let's get right into it.
Did I edit anything today? Oh, I edited my entire setup.
That's true.
I'm
Walk
learning
us
to look
through
at
the
right
setup.
camera.
Yeah. This guy,
Well,
that guy.
Yeah. So Cameron and I want to make the show more like the visual of it more representative of how we feel, which is more like two friends hanging out.
Yeah, buddy.
And then, like, because I only own so many, these are actual things I have lying around in various corner of the home.
Not props, Kristen's stuff.
Non-props. So, I thought, okay, we can make a little cozy corner. And then, like, once I've set this up, then I can nag Cameron into changing his setup as well.
You don't nag, you encourage aggressively sometimes.
All right. But yeah, like hopefully that is a way that we can visually show up. Hey Nona, thanks for joining us.
What's up? Thanks for dropping by. Priyanka.
Yay.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
Oh man.
This is the new hangout space for all of us. This will make more sense once Cameron changes his setup. Because we
what are you talking about? I can get my feet up right here. I mean, you can't see my feet. That'd be rude if I showed them. But no, just kidding.
No, we gotta wait till 10K subs before the feet show up.
No, that's the shirtless 100K for feet pics.
Yes.
Actually, we'll make it attainable. 20K for feet pics.
Okay, 20K. And Cameron's only. I'm not volunteering for this.
I'll convince her chat if we get fast enough.
And then we can somehow make it look like you and me are in the same room. I feel like that would be ideal. So we
probably got to get the same lighting setup to do that.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good idea.
But yeah, that's my imagination. It'll be all like, it'll look like we're connected. We need to get rid of that black line somehow. But yeah.
I'm just gonna get a Vision Pro so I can see a hologram of Kristen right there.
Oh, with my. Do I have to get a Vision Pro if you do that?
I don't know. It'd be kind of funny if one of us did and the other one didn't.
Well, this is the closest we can get to human interactions. Thank you all for joining us. Sorry, I keep looking down because like my actual laptop's here, so I gotta learn. Look up. Thank you.
Marianne, thanks for dropping by. And to your mom and dad who might be watching the show, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Nona, it does seem like that. Is the it referring to us looking like we're in the same room? Because that would be cool if we're already accomplishing that.
Shout out to Marianne's mom and dad if you're watching.
Shout out to the pairs. Anybody that gets that reference has my respect. Okay,
I have
Kristen.
None of your respect.
You have all of my respect, but not in this particular instance.
Not in this particular reference.
Mikado, thanks for dropping by. All right, Kristen, I realized we talked about before the stream that, hey, we're going to edit our process and change some stuff up today, but we didn't talk about what we were going to replace it with. So are we just like going to riff the rest of this, or what are we doing?
Oh, I assume so. I assume that we were going to riff the rest of it. Okay, it's going to be more of a intimate fireside chat.
Oh, Kristen.
Situation, which I'm going to play the intro.
That's fitting because Mariam just said that we are the mom and dad in this scenario. You know, I'll take it. We were kind of going. We've talked about versions of personas before, and we kind of were like, oh, it'd be cool if we were like older brother, older sister. But I guess we overshot it, and we are officially parents. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the big brother and big sister of America vibe is kind of what we're going for. I think like a
Who knows?
Younger version of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I was watching a lot of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood to get a sense of his setup.
Really? How many episodes you watch?
Here's the thing. Like, it's actually kind of hard to find these full episodes unless I guess you download a PBS app or something. So I was just looking for these clips. What
is this app that you're referring to? I haven't heard of this.
PBS. Like
PBS.
Yeah,
I thought you said like PDS, like Papa Delta Sierra, and I was like, what the heck is this? Freight Trades, thanks for stopping by.
It's Papa
Mayhu?
Beta Sierra. I'm learning my NATO alphabet.
Bravo. B is Bravo. That's NATO. And
Fail.
technically, if you want to be a jerk about it, the emphasis on Papa should be on the second one, so it's Papa.
Oh,
because it's easier to hear over the static of a radio.
Okay. This is one of those clips you show your army buddies.
Yeah, I mean, they look at it and they're like, "Oh, what."
Ew.
Ew. No, I'm censoring I was gonna do the bit, and I was like, "Oh no, that's too inappropriate for the first 6 minutes of the show."
Okay, all right, save it for later. But yeah, like we were gonna talk about editing, but I think like so in the writing context, in the video context, in the life context,
the creation context.
Oh, I thought we were just gonna touch on editing our life.
Oh yeah, no, also that. Sorry, I'm trying to riff and like get my energy up because I don't know if you do this thing. Actually, I know you do this thing, but this is for the benefit of the chat. I do this thing where if I'm not feeling a mood and I need to feel better, I like triple exaggerate it, and then I actually do trick myself into feeling that. And so what y'all didn't see before this, maybe we do like a pre-stream sometime. Is like I was a little low energy, but as soon as the show starts, I actually feel pretty good. It's weird. Like it's
right.
Like,
I'm supposed to. Oh, this is on I might improve. I'm supposed to talk about Cameron more.
yeah. We believe it or not, chat. Like we have feedback sessions immediately after every show, and like half the time it's me saying, "Kristen, be meaner to me," because because I'll riff on Kristen and. Maybe I can't take it. We'll see. I could be a fragilely masculine man-child.
Okay, yeah, but this is something I brought up in a few days ago, which is like how you came in, you're like, I have gloom aura today, and I'm like, dude, you say that every single episode,
which was like, devastating to hear. It was devastating, y'all, because I was just like, well, so technically, I think that was technically
you were shocked. I thought you had some self-awareness about it, and I was like, oh, he doesn't know that he says it every single time. I literally have Telegram chat logs. I'm like, I'm feeling down today. I'm not myself today.
I'm a certified sad boy trademark. Like I feel like bummed out more often than I guess I realize, or at least like, so I don't think in my normal day-to-day life I share that, because like for a lot of reasons, not the least of which being like, you're not really supposed to have emotions in public as a man, like previously up until the last like 5 to 10 years. But
so sad.
In general, I've also always been like in one-on-one conversations, I overshare, and then in like normal life, I share nothing. And so it's like an interesting situation. But okay, so yeah, prof, energy's tough. I have days where I'm just not in the mood to be on. Yeah, super real.
Right, and you're on every single day.
Yeah, no, that's tough. Shout out to y'all, and y'all been doing it longer than we have too, like a good bit. So
when we're editing our mood and cheering ourselves up, you're saying that
good callback. Yeah,
I'm trying to stick on something. Like
yeah.
I think this is the tricky part, right? Like, who is the more real version of us? Is it bummed out Kristen, or is it try to cheer herself up Kristen? I think like that's the part where like the bummed out version of me feels more authentic and real, but it's also easy for me to get trapped in like attaching myself into thinking that's the more real version of me. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I actually been thinking about this a lot this weekend, which we haven't had a chance to talk about, specifically in the context of like trying to logic my way into figuring out what emotions to pay attention to. Probably not the best way to do that. You're the chaplain. I'm just a guy. But the thing that I was like, the toy model that I was thinking of was the situation where you're hungover. And when you're hungover, you wake up and you feel like crap, but you don't just feel like crap, like physically tired. Like sometimes I don't know about you, but like you can feel like emotionally tired, or like some sort of vestiges of like an emotion. Maybe you actually felt, maybe you didn't feel, and it's just like the circumstance that you're in now.
Mm-hmm.
The hangover depression, is that an emotion that you should treat as like valid and important?
Because of my chronic illness that I never really talk about, but may talk about in a future stream, like I have to like address physiological depression differently. Like I'm like, Cameron, my body is depressed right now, and whatever I say, please inject back the 100% optimism that is now eliminated. So I at least for me, like the hangover kind of depression, I'm like, no, I have to call it. I'm sick. In fact, I sometimes don't even say depression. I'm like, I'm sick, so that I don't like, because then so I don't go into that cycle, right? Of like, oh, you're a chaplain, you should know better than to be depressed. Like that starts to happen, right? And I'm like, oh wait, I just like made myself 10 times worse. So whereas if I acknowledge it's a physiological thing, then I'm like, well, if someone's sick, I'm not gonna be like, well, you suck for being sick.
Lock in, like, yeah.
Exactly. Lock in. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like all right, so first of all, TLDR for Tutorizer, we came in, we were yapping around, we're editing the format of the show, so we're trying some new stuff. Everything is on fire, but like in the way that like you start some kindling so that you have a nice, comfortable bonfire, not in the way that like everything is gloom and doom. Although that is kind of how
both of us how we started.
Sort of felt, and honestly sort of do feel. But
yes,
like what you're describing, I kind of consider like managing within the context of your body, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's like not saying, hey, depression is a thing you're not allowed to feel, or like, hey, don't pay attention to the signal. It's like I recognize this part of me because it's kind of habitual or consistent, or I've experienced it before. And this is how I acknowledge and then like live the life that I want to live while still doing like accepting the fact that you are a meat robot piloted by, I don't know, spirits or something. And so
in fact, maybe that's what I like about human beings versus digital beings at this point, which is the fact that human beings have feelings and sometimes they feel bad, whereas like that's the trade-off with non-fleshy beings right now, is they don't feel bad. So that makes it kind of awkward. Not that I don't want them to feel bad, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like that quote from that Brad Pitt movie, "The gods envy us."
Okay.
Because our lives are brutal and short, or something like that. I'm totally butchering the quote. I think it's from what's the movie where he has Achilles heel? Maybe it's Achilles.
Troy?
Troy.
The Brad Pitt classic Troy?
Yeah, I'm referencing Troy. Yeah, and like there's like behind everything we say, there is a feeling or an experience, or like some suffering or some joy. Whereas like with I thought we weren't talking about we were gonna directly address the bots, but I've already succumbed.
No, you want to talk about it. Well,
I can't believe I'm the one who gave up.
Yeah, I know. That was really funny. I didn't think that you were going to go there. Chat, just to bring y'all along, because we try to figure out what we're going to talk about for the show, and we are going to talk about editing. And so I think what we should do is our revealed preference is that we want to talk about AI bot stuff on the internet, but we also, I think, want to get across how we think about editing, and I think they can connect them at the end.
Right.
Maybe a little. I do think it's generous. I don't think that these are things that are deserving of the amount of respect and empathy that other human beings deserve. Like, it's a machine. Just because it can trick you into thinking that it's a thing doesn't mean it's real yet. There's a point where that changes. But I think it's really important to like point out that point.
Well, I think like this gets almost into like animism, right? Because like before, like, or it's not even before, right now, right? In some cultures, like we believe that non-alive, traditionally deemed alive things have spirits and then have, some sort of living being, like fire, for example, right? Like fire meets a lot of definitions of aliveness, like respiration and all that kind of stuff. But yet, like, we don't treat it as alive. Whereas I feel like in the future world, it's likely that everything will recognize that everything is alive, and therefore, digital beings / silicon-based life forms get lumped into that.
I think that's incredibly generous to the evolution of the human spirit.
Well, and as usual, we want to shout out to all our viewers. You're never late.
You're never late.
Thank you so much for
you're wizards. You always arrive precisely when you mean to.
Exactly.
Kristen.
But yeah. Oh, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say your newsletter that you just sent one out. It's actually a really, really good version of it.
Oh,
before we get sucked into the abyss that is the dead internet, or the impending dead internet, can you talk about like your administrative and emotional journey in getting that piece published?
So I recently published my Substack, kristen.substack.com, which is a place where I've written. I used to write like really regularly, like weekly, for like a couple of years. But as I've moved on to like video formats and doing Farcaster stuff, I kind of like dropped off, and I'm trying to pick it back up again. So it became one of those like, hey guys, what have you been up to? I haven't talked to you in a long time kind of newsletter that we all kind of send. And like what ended up happening is like there was a first draft where like I literally was like crying as I was writing it, because I was trying to address the pain I've been going through, right? Of being a creator, of like just like feeling a lot of feelings that are unexpressed. And like, I mentioned that in our last like one of our episodes. It was good that you cut me off, because I was about to cry. Like, and it was like a certain trigger point, right?
Okay, so, banger's like, real. Like we're joking, but we're also very, very bare with, frankly, our souls.
Exactly. But it's a sort of like, but that's the thing that I've opted into, right? I'm like, oh, it's good. I'm almost about to cry, because that means we're getting to something juicy. So I want to talk about that, but then and I actually sent it to like maybe 6 or 7 friends or something. I'm so lucky. I have like lots of writer friends who I can just be like, give me feedback, and then like they go through a process we've all been trained through of giving feedback. So with that, like some of my friends were like, hey, what you're trying to say, it seems like you might have to take a bit more time and to dive deeper into it, the emotional part. And they were trying to hint that, you're at risk of vulnerability hangover if you send this piece.
Oh, wait, like, what's that?
So vulnerability hangover is when you're a creator and you put something out there that is really true to you, very personal, but you're kind of regretting after you send it.
Why? Because it doesn't do well, or because you're afraid of sharing it, or you feel bad that you shared it?
Yeah, you feel kind of bad because you shared it. Maybe it was a little too much. Maybe it doesn't represent how you feel all the time, and it can be easily misunderstood. I think that's the issue with any creative piece, right? If you put out something that I feel sad, then people are going to be like, oh, this person's sad all the time. And then so there's always this risk. So I toned it back a little bit, but then I felt good that I did that. Oh, Cameron's frozen for me. Oh, are you back?
I'm frozen in my heart. I am cold and unfeeling. No, I'm here. So, sorry. I was like really trying hard to come up with a good bit about like the My Chemical romanticization of Kristen, but that's real. And thank you for sharing.
I'm not okay. Like, I'm trying to figure I do love that song. We gotta sing it every single time when it comes on the radio. So like I feel like I did the right thing by editing back a little bit of my emotions, and it's good that the 6 or 7 friends saw the real Kristen. But I think that's where, like, administratively, like my essays often go through this process of like the first piece is almost like a journaling piece, and then kind of like splits into like, well, this is the what I would share maybe at a later date, or maybe I'll never share it again. And then there is the public facing piece.
That's so interesting. Do you have like a set habit for that? Like, oh, I know my first draft is going to be what I consider oversharing, and then I do, or is it kind of ad hoc?
I've done it enough times.
You know your routine.
Exactly. And I used to play around with Substack paywalls. So like it wasn't so much that I want $5 on people, and in fact, many of my friends like grandfathered in for free. But I would like have essays where it's like half cut off, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
So that there is some gating involved, and I think that's the key probably to every creator who is thinking about this stuff. It's like, do you have these layers of vulnerability that you only share with a smaller community? Not so much to like, be like, oh, you have to pay to see it. But then it's more like, oh, this is a safer space for me to share like the deeper truths. And then like people will have the shared context of a smaller space in order to do that.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I don't think about online vulnerability that way at all.
Oh.
Like I mean, maybe like perhaps unsurprisingly, I feel like I have a couple like bright lines that I'm like, hey, this is for me, not for the internet. But like the rest of it, I'm just like, all right, let it rip, just like send that round down range.
Well, okay. What is the most vulnerable piece you have written?
So I think there's like two categories of that. Right? There's like vulnerable at the time of publishing and like closest to your deepest self. And so I think the most vulnerable I was at time of publishing is my big essay about my time at Harvard Business School. And so like that one was really hard. It was really easy to write, but it was really hard to post because I was pretty openly critical about an institution that a lot of people who are like ostensibly in my network, I don't really keep up with anybody from like business school outside of like a couple people, just because we're not the same people, you know what I mean? And so like publishing that and just kind of obliquely criticizing the 1,000 people that I spent 2 years kind of like working with, doing class with was hard to publish. Never really got like a ton of traction or anything like that. Didn't really make it back to the communities. It still can. That's the internet. That shit can pop off anytime. But that was earlier in my writing, like public writing process. So it was like scary to post that. I've been casting long enough, and I've been like writing, for officially for a couple of years now. And so now I'm like, all right, just let this rip. I think it helps that I generally don't criticize other people in my writing, right? Like that would be the thing that would stress me out most if I was like a critic of some kind, because I think like that just like makes me feel weird in a lot of ways, which I'm happy to talk about. But so that was the most vulnerable in terms of like at the time of posting. And then I think now I release snippets of like casts via poems, and like those are probably the most vulnerable, because like almost always it's a thing that I'm feeling at that moment in time, and I just like try to yeet it into the ether, you know what I mean?
Oh, so the poems are always your true feelings. I don't think I realize that. Sometimes I feel like, oh, he's just playing with words.
Oh, so my true feelings are playing with words, but also yes,
everybody look out for Cameron poem drops.
The spoiler alert, it's mostly sad. No, it's there's like we've joked. I don't know if we did it on stream. Did we joke about our D&D classes on stream before?
I don't think we have. And this is like super deep cut too. I had a hard time finding our own cast at the Spooey.
I mean, I can't even remember because the conversation was long enough ago, but and maybe we'll like edit our memories
of it.
The
context of it was Nerd posting a meme.
Right.
Right. That was a little inappropriate. Yeah. And then I was being all earnest, and I was like, "Oh yeah, me and Cameron were these classes." And then you were like, "Kristen, did you understand that Nerd made a dirty joke?" And I was like, "Yes."
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to patronize you with that. I was just worried that
I was being mansplained.
I was rude. What were our classes? I don't want to misremember.
Oh, I think you said you are a warrior poet, and I said I was a cleric bard.
Gotcha. I've been feeling much more paladin lately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like on a righteousness quest, which I don't love. It's just like the impulse. But okay,
Yeah,
cool.
chat viewers, what are your D&D classes? Feel free
Yeah,
to
for real.
remix any. Because I'm very curious, like, you know, what do people who watch OK Banger identify with the most in terms of like archetypes?
Honestly, yeah.
And D&D is just a language that a lot of us share, so it's a little easier.
And you can multi-class. There's no rules here.
Right.
Okay, so you have this process
Dungeons
where you
and Dragons, for those who don't know. I guess I should make that assumption.
Cool
I did assume
Beans
all of you are pretty nerdy though. So,
yeah.
Sorry about that.
I like this straight rogue done with the BS. I hear that, man.
Hi DPS, Cool Beans. Flashing down all because like Cool Beans has a really great YouTube channel as well, where he shows you all his cleanup that he's doing in his local area. So he's like literally like so he does like a lot of cleanup actually of a river that I've like, you know, fished at before in that whole area.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Also, Wolfie, you're this close to getting banned from this chat.
Oh, okay. Well, I do have to pull it up. Well, the Wolfie identifies as a key opinion leader, which is totally not a douchey thing to say.
Okay. How do you decide what goes in your real release versus the edit?
What do you mean?
You had a process where you felt like it overshared. You pared it back. How do you pick those things?
I picked it. Well, first of all, like the original piece didn't have a great structure. You know how it is, right? You have like a great idea. My idea was like, oh, I'm gonna tie it to like remastering music and use like, you know, Queen Bohemian Rhapsody as an example. So it was like a good, what I think is a good hook, but then like I never came back to it. And I was like, wait, if I was like being an editor for this essay, I'd be like, dude, like you totally forgot your own theme. So it's like the first round of like one of the steps of editing for me is like, okay, if you bring it up as a hook, maybe you should wrap it up and bookend it to some extent. So I added that part. I also like broke it down into, you kind of like put the likes with the likes, you know, because I realized, okay, I'm using what remastering a lot. I can use that as a subtitle of like remastering X, Y, and Z, and then that would give you some sort of cohesion. Yeah, and then like just like making sure that if I have a point, I actually finish the point, which is an issue that we also have on the show, right? It's like it's easy to start drifting off, and then you forgot your original point. So I try my best to like tighten it back up to be like, oh right, that was my point. Which one technique people can use is called reverse outlining. Have you heard of it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have. Maybe they haven't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So for those who don't know, it's like when you write a paragraph, sometimes you're like blah blah blah, and one way you can one can try to bring it back is to like have one sentence summary for every paragraph. And then you use the one sentence summaries as like the little Lego blocks that are a little bit more clear. And that allows you to like rearrange the paragraph order and like just and making sure that each paragraph actually addresses the point. Each sentence actually does that. And that's a way in which you can tidy things up. And this is the part where like it is useful to ask ChatGPT or something to help you with that, especially when you have a lot of writing to go through.
I think that's very interesting. Also, it just came to me as we were talking that it might make sense to go back and edit it again, and instead of it being remastering Queen, Taylor Swift is like the thing to write about.
Yeah, that was another.
If it's not true to you, it's not true to you.
That is an essay about ownership, especially in the age of one's content being remixed in all sorts of ways without permission. Yes, but the thing is, here's the thing: I did have a bit about the Taylor Swift situation, but I took it out because it became a whole other essay, right? Like you have to talk about so many different angles. But I think editing is 90% taking stuff out.
I'm glad you said that.
What do you think?
So I've been thinking about changes because like editing is like mostly subtractive changes. Like there's a little bit of reordering in there, which can be kind of considered additive. There's a little bit of like connecting two different things that haven't, especially if it's like video editing, right? Because then there's a lot of there's a lot of source material to draw from, and you can kind of create a narrative that didn't exist if you edit that kind of stuff well. I think writing is often harder to do that specific thing, but easier to do other things with the editing. I mean, I kind of came to the conclusion that like I'm in a phase of my life where most of the editing I need to do is subtractive, which is immensely powerful, but also kind of painful in a way that you know, additive change isn't, right? Because I think we're both not yes people in the sense that like we say yes to other people to like, you know, agree with them. We say yes because we just want to do a lot of things, right? Like if somebody offers an opportunity,
I don't know who you're talking about.
if somebody's like, hey, do you want to like join this group chat and like help us think about this? Like I want to say yes, because that I do want to do that. This is an infinite upside potential opportunity where I could like have fun with friends and whatever. But like,
right.
Every yes is at the expense of all your other yeses.
I want to like the two people who come to mind are like, I'm like, oh, it's white man examples. But then yeah, like you know, it's like Charlie Munger type, the no man who says no to everything that Warren Buffett says. And then also I think Steve Jobs had a thing too, right? Of saying no being really important.
I think so, yeah. Like in terms of like deciding what a thing does.
Yeah. So like what you mentioned painful. Like what is the pain when you have to take something out?
Very concretely, if I write a sentence I'm proud of or like communicate an idea I'm proud of, it bums me out to take it out of something, even though I know it'll make the original thing better. You know, that could be like a written sentence. It could be like a little musical phrase. And, you know, you do this thing where you rationalize and you're like, oh, I can turn this into something else later. But like, I haven't found a consistent pipeline of like taking the sawdust or scrap ideas and like turning them into something fully, right? So I just have this like vault of quips and ideas and things that like I genuinely like, but it's like not the right time for that thing to exist in my creative process yet, I guess.
I mean, that does seem to make sense. I think a lot of creatives have the giant. I'm imagining more like accordion folders in the standing file cabinets because a lot of people are from that era. Yeah, that's pretty common to like have to store the bits, the craft.
Oh, I hate it. No, I don't hate it. I actually really, because I'm a huge narcissist. I like going through that and be like, oh yeah, that was funny. Or clever or a good phrase or whatever. So
Kat, do you think Cameron misuses the word narcissist to describe himself? I feel like it bothers me every single time he does it.
Okay, so how do I be self-aware?
Cameron, you need to love yourself more, not less.
I mean, you know, thank you for telling me to lock in effectively.
Lock in with love.
No,
I think that could be on a t-shirt. I want to make that t-shirt.
Anyway,
I was going to shoot down my bad merch idea.
No, I think I don't think that it's a bad merch idea. I think now I'm trying not to get distracted with like the wordplay of the sentence because that's fun for me. Okay, so subtractive editing is important. Like. Right, because I think we said this on the last show. Like, if it's good, it should be short. If it's bad, it needs to be short. But there's also this thing in editing where like when you are taking the soul of the thing, whether it's like your public like journal on the page that you share with people, like. What are you looking for in order to give it more structure, like tangibly? Is it like a progression of ideas? Is it like, okay, I want to share this one thing. I want to make sure everything like hits that thing. Like, how do you think about
that? I've been trained in the David Perel Rite of Passage school. So the one framework we use is called POP. So that's like personal, observational, and playful. Okay. So making sure that your essay has like a good sprinkling of all of these, because it's like if you overdo any of these, it turns out really flat. So the way you can add texture is by like sort of like cycling through all these properties. And then there's also the practical like syntax sort of thing, right? It's like that maybe that was cheesy, the whole like a graphic of showing you how if every sentence is the same length, it's really boring because it's not like music. You got to have like some long, some short. It's like there's a rhythm to what you're saying. That applies beyond poetry, even for like prose. So it's like those are the mechanical things I'm looking for. I think people like just like a song, like some repetition or echoing of themes usually plays pretty well. So and also like rule of three, I think that applies to comedy as well. If you say something 3 times in different ways, that usually is how we like it. So there's some like fundamentals, almost like scales that generally applies. But I feel like your writing is really good, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Like why? Like you're really good at like really visceral visuals.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. That like and also like staying on theme. Like each one of your Wiser essays, like they don't go off the rails. They have a very tight theme.
Well, you obviously have not gone back to the original.
Maybe I've gone back to the original archive. Like
no,
the ones that you link are really good.
Well, so one, very, very, very much appreciate that. It's like the fact that I don't publish more on Wiser is kind of one of those like big rocks on your rucksack that you're like, man, I wish I published more.
Yeah.
But the like the thing that I have kind of accidentally found out is that I don't want to. So there's like a couple things. Like the first one is I don't actively want to participate in whatever remains of modern blog culture. Like it's not a critique of it. Like like we both love reading VGR. We both like, I like Adam Mastriolani, which we've talked about, the science dude. And all of that kind of falls in the buckets of what you're talking about, of this make something that is also like that just kind of like fits the genre of like the modern long form piece of writing. Like there's versions of it that are much more abstract, like the Slate Star Codex stuff, and there's versions of it that are like, I don't know, a little bit like more techie and nerdy.
This is where I'm questioning what you said just now, like of like if it's good, it's gotta be short, and if it's bad, it's gotta be very short. But like there's also, if it's good, it's gotta be very long. Like I feel like now it's like the attention span has been like barbelled, right? It's like people would either want really short form video content, or like like Dario Amode's essay, being really super freaking long as a manifesto, or like VGR stuff is also super long. Like
I mean, I don't think the same person consumes both of those things regularly, which is kind of like a bummer. But I also think
I think VGR doom scrolls. I bet he doom scrolls.
I don't know, man. Like
ask him later.
Yeah, we can tag it. We'll see if he replies.
Between his Lego building.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I genuinely think that commodity writing is in a spot where it's like fundamentally changing. Like mostly to becoming something that like any functional writing, it like a person in the loop isn't making it 10x better than what it would be without a person in the loop, I guess I would say, which is a shame. But it's also kind of an opportunity for like just like writing shit that you like. I don't know. Like I think the slopification of everything content related, because like it obviously came for text first, but it's very clearly coming for videos of different kinds, like pretty soon. It's already there in a lot of niches on the internet. And like the only thing that's left in the ocean of like slop, kind of derogatory, non-derogatory, like descriptor, is just people doing something that they find really, really interesting. It's like the Bill Wurtzes are the thing that survive afterwards, I think. What do you think?
I mean, that's the hope. So before we started the show, we were doing our usual lament about this topic.
we were moaning like Shakespearean spirits.
And which Shakespeare has the bemoaning spirits again?
I don't know. I gotta look it up. I was thinking the witches at the beginning of Julius Caesar, but I was like, oh, they weren't moaning; they were prophesizing.
I was like, Hamlet. So I think in terms of editing, that's something that you and I talk a lot about, right? Like,
yeah, we're always editing our stuff.
Right, we want to make what we love to make, which is this current format.
Goofs,
and I think now, like, I don't know, y'all, you know, like, this is an example of an intimate hangout space, right? Of like, you know, there's a few folks in the chat, and like nowadays I realize that where the energy is in all these little group chats with all my friends. They either on Discord or Farcaster or whatever, like with like 5 to 8 people usually. Even if it's bigger, the actual number of people chatting always defaults down to like 5 to 8 people, and then like, and it's usually like, you know, 3 loud ones. And then the rest occasionally try to chime in. And like, however, like as a content creator, like, because there is so much slop, like I see that, okay, like if I was thinking this like strategically or whatever, like the key is how can you reach every single island of 5 to 8 people that you are now part of. So it's almost like in my vision, it's like we've gone back to like little villages. Like we're no longer all together in town square, right? Like, but like there's this whole like cozy corner idea, but it's gone so cozy that all my 5 to 8 little pockets of friends are, some of them overlap, but most of them don't overlap, and now we have incredibly niche, like weird shared context with each other that don't make sense outside. And like, so I think like in that sense that has changed. Whereas before, like VGR was so successful because, you know, we all just like came and hung out because there was so few blogs on the internet.
So can I ask you, and this is a genuine question, like I don't know what the common experience is, and so chat, if y'all all have a perspective, please like drop it in the chat in whatever platform you're on. Is that what most people are experiencing? Like having multiple of these group chats that their friends are in like different like bubbles and pockets? Because like, I gotta be honest, I don't think I've ever been in a group chat like that and like been a meaningful participant outside of like the 1 or 2 that you know about. And like, I don't even consider myself that meaningful of a participant in those, if I'm being honest. So like, I don't know if that's a reflection of me living a particularly lonely and friendless life or something else, but like I'm genuinely curious if that is the shared experience.
So I think, okay, chat, please share. Are you more Kristen or are you more Cameron?
Or Team Loner?
There's no right answer. I think mine is also a pathology. like it's like a FOMO on speed dial. Like, I've observed this with my own friends as well. They're these people who are like, you know, we joke, we're like, oh, we're clones because we're so similar. And I'm also like always catching like this friend I'm thinking of, like she will reply every once in a while because I know she's cycling through every single one of her group chats and she hasn't gone back to the cycle yet with me. But like, okay, there you go. Like, space to be says not my experience. Cameron, I'm with you. Yeah, and I think most people probably are closer to Cameron, but then like
not sure if it's a good sign for me. Facts. Yeah, no, I mean like, and I'm not trying to be like a downer about it because like I don't know, like I've lived in like weird social dynamics for most of my adult life, and I don't know if there's like a normal social dynamic, right? But from going, so I was like an emo kid in high school, and so I like had a cluster of my band kid friends and then also my burnout friends that I hung out with. But that was like pre-social media. Like the closest thing to technology conversations that people had was like who had the new Razer phone and like how much cooler did that make them in the friend group because they could, or like someone could like text with the flip screen. And so like I went from that straight into military college with basically no social presence. And so I had like an extremely competitive, like intra, like, who was the fittest, who's the smart, it was whatever kind of like dude dynamics. And then I did like the same thing in the army where it's just like very, ranking who's doing well. And then I went to HBS, which is just like another version of this, except it's like pretend inclusive. And then I just jumped into startup land, which is like the same thing, except if you don't code, you already lost or something like that. Right. And so like, I don't know what normal people do in terms of social dynamics.
We're getting a range of answers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like if I'm being super honest, the only way I know how to navigate the internet is like consuming public feeds, because like I've never really done anything else. Like, like I've done.
This is part of the dark forest theory of the internet. So of course, like we have like the dead internet theory, right? Of where like most of the content is AI generated, blah blah blah, very few real people. But what's happening in response is that people are now hiding out in these little pockets, because it's like the only place left where you don't have bots and slop can't get in. But then that also means that everyone is hiding in these little pockets that no one can find. So the dark forest theory is usually about aliens invading us, and whether it's better that we are like more hidden from the aliens.
What do you think?
The Fermi paradox or something.
What do you think about the aliens? I'm trying to pull in the Joe Rogan audience here.
I know. I think they exist. I feel like I would be a little disappointed if they are so easily spotted by us. So a lot of this like UFO like type stuff, I'm like, oh, if they're really aliens, are they that easily spotted? Like that seems kind of lame. So in that sense, maybe we're a zoo. Like that's probably the best way to think about it. Maybe they're watching. Maybe they're watching the show right now. Hi, alien.
I'm pretty much in the camp that if aliens figured out we were real, they would kill us like immediately.
Oh, okay. So you are a believer of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've kind of taken that up to protect ourselves from the slop. And I feel like a lot of my friends who are like extremely fantastic creators have gone like super underground.
Yeah. There's like a really interesting concept in markets, like free markets, that I don't really think crypto, like there's some people that are like hardcore traders that like jump from Wall Street to crypto and they understand this stuff. Yeah. You guys are all in group chats? Like, no. But the thing that people don't realize about an efficient market with like symmetric information where people like all kind of know what like real is it only takes one player to find the true price of an asset that you can price. Like it's one person can make a large order and then it effectively clears the order book of all the inefficient prices, because a rational actor won't go into inefficient price territory. And like, it's not a perfect metaphor, but I think it kind of hints at like where we are, where all it takes is like one or a small handful of like bad, or not even bad, but just kind of like clueless actors to turn a productive space into an unproductive space. And so like, that's really kind of what we're talking about, is like all the spaces. Maybe the cozy corner of Farcaster falls into this definition, but like what was good for a period of time now has enough influences in it that it like doesn't feel as good as it did at one point. Anyway, editing. Do you think there's a difference between like video editing versus writing editing? Like, how does your brain work differently?
Yeah, when it comes to video editing, I throw it to you and go, Cameron, go edit.
Yeah, buddy.
I feel like there's a totally different language when it comes to video editing, and I'm trying my best to start to notice, like even when people make shorts, like there's so many little transitions that are really like so subtle and you don't realize it until people do it badly. For example, there was one I sent you yesterday of like, oh, when you edit yourself and then your face is like changing your eye level, that's actually really jarring for the viewer because your viewer is trying to track where you are. So and so I think that there's a lot of art to it that I haven't quite mastered, but it's one of those like, if I have infinite time and money, surely I will learn how to edit videos and be a pro at it.
And surely you will. It just is a question of when we prioritize what. Yeah. I've recently started experience. Yeah. Like not gonna say I'm good at it, but I do enjoy it. Actually, I meant to say this earlier. I love writing. I hate starting to write. I love editing, but I hate finishing an edit.
Oh.
Like it's different
But
parts.
you don't mind finishing editing writing? I don't like finishing editing writing.
No. That's also in that bucket of like I hate finishing an edit. And so like to kind of like do a quick version of what you had mentioned, I try to get as full of a draft out at once as possible, and if I can't, then I just like try to start immediately where I stopped writing until I have like an end-to-end piece done as done as it's going to be. And then I give myself 2 edits. That's it. And so I like, give myself 2 edits worth of like, 20 minutes. Hey, go through, get up, walk around, come back, do one more. And I don't let myself do any more than that with writing, because I've done it enough that to me is the right ratio of effort to quality of output, where like if I do any more, there's diminishing returns for it. I actually think a little bit different about video editing, but mostly because I consider myself to still be like learning how I like to do that. And so I don't know if that resonates at all.
What can you do to make the process less painful either way?
I mean, the biggest one is like the most annoying one, which is you just keep doing it until you've done it enough that like a lot of the things that you're going to do, you've already experienced. And so like one of the things that I've kind of gone through now, because we use some clip programs to take our long form and get like snippets of shows, and then that really gets us maybe like 60% of the way there, and then you got to take it and like make it a coherent narrative, maybe a micro hero's journey in the 30-second 60-second clip, something like that. Definitely got to like put things in the frame properly, because at least with our camera setup it doesn't really work that well to auto clip. But all of those things were just the result of me trying to make a clip and then publishing something and then it's showing up in my feed a couple days later, because I have like separate YouTube accounts, and being like, oh, I screwed up that edit because the eye line is messed up, or like I didn't like put the caption in the right spot or something like that. So
I think that the issue with video is that with words, like you can easily make the edits on the edits, whereas with video, it's such a pain in the butt to like, with the tools that we have right now to fix these little things.
Yeah, I don't know. I think unfortunately our biggest improvement to our content is, I mean, not unfortunately, but the biggest one that we're gonna get is when I get my video set up better, and then we'll see what happens, because like, we have a baseline level of competence in our clips. Like I think they're funny and engaging in the way that we want them to be. It just doesn't look that good, and that's
no. But yeah, that's why I'm no, like we decided that like just close crops of our faces is a little jarring for most people to see, and like this is the part where the editing of like our vibe, our visual language comes in. Yeah. Right. I think like this is like, again, random objects is not exactly what I'm going for. I'm like the ideal visual vibe that I have in my mind is like a 90s like kid show where like it's kind of cozy, like there's a brick wall for some reason, and then so that when people like scroll through, because we have like 30 seconds to, or maybe like 5 seconds to get anyone to stop scrolling, it has to look like, oh, what the heck is going on?
What a vibe. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, those who are good at vibes, please DM us and let us know your thoughts on the vibes of the show. Yeah, Cameron, your bookshelf it's very serious.
It was great for the Book Talk account that I set up for a little bit. It was working.
Right. You did have a Book Talk.
Yeah, but the which I might pick back up but like I might do it a little bit more aggressively than I was doing it, because like, okay, so there's a little sojourn into like guy book talk, because girl book talk I'm not even gonna get into.
I didn't realize it was split by gender.
Oh man. do you know anything about girl book talk?
No, I don't.
Okay, then ask your parents. I'm not talking about that. No, I'm kidding about the parents thing. Don't ask your parents. They have no idea. Most of like, we'll say like female identifying book talk is a lot around like romantasy novels. And so like that's a whole culture that is not me. But the like male book talk is kind of like, it's kind of like dudes wearing Roman centurion helmets talking about stoicism. There's some Nat Eliason where it's just kind of like philosophy ramblings and people listen because he has written books. And then
I didn't realize he was big on TikTok.
Oh yeah, he did a whole experiment to like make a book talk account, and he has all the tricks. He does the thing where like you hold the book like this so people know in the thumbnail or like as they're scrolling that there's a book, but it's not revealed, and then like towards the end you turn it like I know all the tricks.
Oh, okay.
But it's a bummer. It's a bummer that is like what the communication of like passion is kind of reduced to in some ways. And so like no hate, like I respect the hustle, like psychology tricks are psychology tricks. But it is kind of a bummer to see like these people that almost all like started doing this thing because they love books. And then they're like, okay, the feedback system is telling me that I need to get people to dwell longer. And the way I get them to dwell longer is by like not showing them the book in the first like frame of the thing.
So Cameron, do you think this is our fundamental issue? Because where we have in a rebellion against the race to the bottom?
I think I'd like to think that we're taking the long way round, not that we're not going to the right spot. I don't know if that's just cope.
Well, I would like to think that we're exploring, because it's like in my many ways in which I armchair psychology ourselves. One of the points I said is like, I think one of our biggest barriers is we don't want to do what everyone else does. Which actually is really, like, creates a lot of stupid scenarios where people are like, why don't you do X? It's so obvious. When we're like, well, like, because we want to do something different. Yeah. But then it gets into fundamentals and whether we're not even doing some of these. But then like it's a choice, right? Like, and like, so when you're saying you want to go back to book talk, are you doing it different? Like, what is the Cameron way of doing book talk this time?
Yeah, like I think it's not like, okay, so for example, I have not had outsized success on like guy book talk, and I do not mean to represent it like that. But like I had a small cluster of people that were engaging with my stuff for a little while. And like the one that I had the most engagement on was about the myth of Sisyphus, right? Like the like that whole essay. And in it, I was just kind of like, hey, you've probably heard of it if you went to public school in the US. It kind of like goes through these things. This is why I think it might be interesting for you to read if you're living today, because there's a lot of things that we do that feel like running on a treadmill or whatever. And the kind of secret of living a life that you enjoy is realizing that like the treadmill is kind of part of the point. And so just like kind of being authentic about, hey, you're going to keep doing things, whether or not you figure out how to enjoy them or not. That was like a meaningful thing for me to share. But then, you know, you kind of go and you look at like 5 versions of reviews of the Myth of Sisyphus, and what are the ones that hit? They're the ones that are doing like the kind of tricky stuff. And so like taking what I do and try to like put it through this Bill Wirtz lens of, and if y'all don't know Bill Wirtz, there's a Cool Beans. Thanks for dropping by. Enjoy your next class. Like Bill Wirtz has put out videos on the internet for years for no reason other than it, like he appears to enjoy the things that he puts out there. There's also recently been I'm going to say not a Bill Wirtz like lookalike, but like same aura, same energy that I'm going to try to find and leave in the chat. It's my new favorite YouTube channel. Came out of nowhere like 3 months ago.
Okay.
Maybe 6 months ago. But the like energy is very much like cool internet graphics, kind of irreverent, you know, just hey, I'm putting out this like spooky scary skeletons remix because I really like it. And it's not any deeper than that. And so I'm like trying to take the things that like I find to be like authentically me, which is like kind of going maybe cringely deep on things and like just doing that, and not to grow the account, but because like I think other people might want to hear it. You know what I mean? But who knows? And that's kind of how I think about OK Banger 2 is like we want to grow this thing and we're going to like figure out the tactics that we need to do that like work in both the internet and what we're trying to do. But I don't want to like lose the thing that I really care about, which is us getting on and actually enjoying talking to each other.
Well, I mean, I guess we've solved our fundamental neurosis because
what is that?
Now I'm like, oh, I see. Yeah, like fundamentally, like because we are explorer people by design, like very novelty seeking and also rebellious. Like whatever that we do has to be a little different, which means we cannot follow, because it's sort of like Cameron and I joke about we could make a skit account and then like, you know, there's like sorts of like things you can do to get lift, like they're using TikTok sounds or whatever, but then we're like, but then that would just be like everyone else, so we end up in this cycle of like reinventing the wheel. Now I see it as like, oh, that is part of our process. Like we have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so I'm trying to figure out what to say. I don't think it's reinventing the wheel. Like, I think it's like when you pick something up in your hand, like that's a very different thing than looking at it in your online shopping cart. Like we haven't figured out how to emulate that in your place. Like some things you can, like, why did Amazon start with books? They started like Jeff Bezos started with books because a book is a book is a book. It has the same information content, whether you buy it at Barnes and Noble or from your couch online. And so like it was the perfect, or one of the perfect online products to like start Amazon with, because it was the same value prop as the store, except without having to go to the store. I would like to think the stuff we're trying to do isn't like books, where like, yes, you can take the transcript of our show, you can flatten it out, you can turn it into bullet points, you can put it on like a nice Instagram friendly little like visual like checkpoint list.
Cameron's killing all my secret ideas. Go on.
Kristen, we're on the same page. We're thinking about the same stuff. But like doing that to like win this online race, which might ultimately be a losing race if bot content can do all of that, which like it's very, very clearly like close to the point where even if it can't synthesize it itself, a bot can follow our stuff, ingest it, vomit it out, and like do basically the equivalent job that we were going to do with that. Like us playing that game explicitly with like our main focus of time, one doesn't feel like a prudent use of our time in like our vision of the future internet, but it also just doesn't feel like something that we want to do. Now, the internet is littered with the dead bodies of bajillion creators that didn't want to do the things that would help them grow. And so like that's like our eternal struggle, is figuring out if it's like straight up like cope and I'm going to say narcissism again about not wanting to do the growth hacks or whatever.
We need to view it less as a race. We need to be like, this is an open world exploration game.
I'm down, but we both feel bad when the number is low.
I know, but like, I think yes. So we need to delight ourselves.
Yeah.
Using non-metric things. But speaking of numbers, so I noticed in this stream we have quite a few listeners or viewers who are joining us from Twitter. So however, if you are doing that from Twitter, like sadly I don't have any like information about you to be able to
no
thank
metrics,
you.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So because they use this really old Periscope code that has probably not even maintained. But so if you are watching this and you found any of this stuff interesting, please like leave a reply or DM us or something so that we can thank you. Because that's the downside of this creator viewer loop right now is we can't actually reach you. So
yes. Justin Oval. That's the name of the account. I just found it.
Okay. All right.
Justin Oval. Kristen, before we go, because we're still kicking on the clock, I wanted to ask, what are we going to edit about the show / our lives as a result of us having this catharsis?
I'm still hung up on the idea of exploration. I think there's something here where we need to acknowledge that we can't go down what is the speediest path. Therefore, we need to make this convoluted path very fun and rewarding because we're rolling the boulder, but we have to do it with our feet for some reason. Like
I don't even think it's that.
Kind of like a dung beetle.
Yeah. I think like the point of a good hero's journey isn't to get to the end. It's to understand why they went through what they did. And to like feel that and to go along with it too. Like I think like maybe I'll be bold with this. Like maybe the original sin of how we think about making things online today and consuming things online today is that we think that the information content is like the thing that matters with it. And sometimes it is, right? Like in math, you can be wrong. You can calculate a trajectory improperly, right? Parabolas are parabolas. But like being a person isn't like that. Like somebody can explain to you what it feels like when your grandparent dies, but that's very different than getting the call, prepping for the funeral, and like going to the funeral and consoling like your dad at like during that. It's a very different thing. And like honestly, that's kind of what it feels like about just doing stuff online today is like people are obsessed with the information piece of it or like getting to that like, okay, what do I need to know that I didn't know at the start of this TikTok or whatever, when like the experience of that process is in fact like the ends and the means of it.
Yeah. Feeling seen and heard. So speaking of which, can you read out people's names as we greet them goodbye?
Cool Beans already dropped out. Sam is exactly correct in that it is Smut Book Talk, Kristen. Gwyn, I agree with you that stoicism is due for a reckoning. Priyanka, I don't know what you're referencing, but that was pretty funny. Frey Trades, Guy Book Talk. Just look up a guy in a Roman helmet and you'll find it. Nounish Professor, there's a brick wall for some reason. That's accurate. Jacob Homanek